Hello YouTube, welcome to my home and welcome to my channel, A Ginger Can. And today, a ginger can make a super simple spaghetti sauce. We're all working, we've got kids in school, or not, depending on what year and what time of year it is. After school activities or summer activities, or not, depending on what year it is. This year's crazy. You come home, you're tired, you don't want to have to spend an hour cooking, or you don't have a whole lot going on in the refrigerator or pantry. This sauce is very simple, easy to make. By the time your noodles are done cooking, the sauce is done and it's perfect, I promise. As long as you don't cook it on high, and we'll get to that. And I know what you're thinking, Brian, I've got a jar of sauce in the pantry. I'll just grab that, throw it in a pot, good to go. There is that option, yes. When you look at that sauce, there's ingredients in there I can't even pronounce. I've looked. Plus there's a lot of sugar, or there's a lot of salt, or there's a lot of both. My family, we're trying to get away from processed foods. Simple recipes. You've seen some of the Korean recipes. They're super simple, although there are some processed foods in that, like fish cakes. I don't think that's natural occurring. But this sauce is. It's super easy. It's only a couple ingredients. The first one is olive oil. You need olive oil for this. This is the sauce. And then you're going to want some garlic and some basil. I'm going to throw in some cherry tomatoes, or I guess these are grape tomatoes. Or you could throw in bell peppers, or both. Maybe some sausage, some bacon. Bacon works for everything. If you're going to use bacon, cook it first. Take the bacon out, leave the drippings, add a little bit of olive oil, and then throw the garlic in, and everything will blend beautifully. I'm going to add some black pepper, just a little bit. Once the oil starts going until it's aromatic, yeah, that's the sauce. That's how easy it is, how simple it is, how easy. So we're going to start with some garlic. When I was younger, I didn't cook a whole lot. I did throw garlic around a lot though. And that all changed when I got to turkey, actually. There was a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits, and it was all available at the markets 2 times a week, so it was easier to eat healthy and start cooking for myself. And that's when I noticed that my kitchen implements weren't the greatest. I didn't have the best cutlery. I didn't have a lot of great kitchen, anything really, pots, pans, dishes. So I started investing into that. I had some really bad knives. In one of my earlier videos, I talked about chopping, dicing garlic, and how I wanted to use a garlic press, because it's a quicker and easier and more efficient way to do it. And that still holds true. It is faster and far more efficient than sitting there dicing garlic. But then it gets mushy, and it depends on what you're looking for. For this sauce, we're looking for thinly sliced garlic. And as I mentioned, I had some bad cutlery, but that has changed. This knife is beautiful. I can really get in there and get some real super thin slices. But there's an even faster way. This is a truffle slicer. It's like a Mindy mandolin. No, not that kind of mandolin. One of the slicing ones. And this is even faster. And you get consistent slices. And if you're not careful, you will get your fingers. So be careful when using these. So I'm going to use 3 cloves here. And like I said in one of my other videos, if the boys get a chunk of garlic, it turns them away. But the first couple of scoops out of the pot, a lot of the ingredients stay at the bottom of the pot, so they don't get a whole lot of garlic, but I do try to pile on the tomatoes for them. So there we go. Garlic sliced thinly and quickly using our truffle slicer. I'm going to throw this into the pot. I'm going to use a cast iron pan here. And I love cast iron for this because it really holds the heat well. It doesn't develop any hot spots. It's all pretty much uniform, and it allows me to continue seasoning it. It's a cheap move, not going to lie. So I'm going to throw the garlic in. We're going to add about 1.5 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil drizzled on top, and then I'll get it on the smallest burner on the lowest heat. You want this to be very low, very slow, very methodical. You're going to want to stir it every once in a while, make sure nothing's sticking to the bottom. Although with that amount of olive oil and the cast iron, nothing should be sticking. If you use a higher heat because you want it done faster, don't do that. Because as it cooks slowly, the garlic gets into the oil and it just infuses the oil with that flavor. You throw the tomatoes in, the tomatoes get infused with the garlic flavor, and then we'll throw the basil in at last. Now like I mentioned, if you want to use bacon, I tell you what, you get the bacon and the garlic and the olive oil, and it all comes together, and it's a beautiful thing. My mouth is starting to water already. So let me get the garlic into the pan, get the olive oil added. We'll chop up some tomatoes, get them thrown in there, and I'll be right back. I got it on low heat. I added some tomatoes. I'm going to add a couple more just so I don't get yelled at for not giving the boys enough vegetables. It happens. And like I said, this is a gorgeous knife. It cuts right through these vegetables like they were nothing. It'll go right through your fingers also like they're nothing, so be very careful. I'll leave a link below to this knife. I've got the garlic, I've got the tomato, I've got the olive oil. That's on low. I'm going to add some pepper. Not too much, because you want that pepper to get in there. Now I'm going to chop up some basil. And I've got this fresh basil. I picked it up at the grocery store. The plant was heavily diseased. It was the last one they had, and I took pity on it. It had a bunch of fruit flies or no-see-ums or whatever you want to call them all over it. And to be honest, I've had these plants for about a year, and they're on their last legs. You can see they're not doing so great anymore. And, they're breeding no-see-ums. Although you can see them. So I'm going to take some of the older plants, fight with them a little bit. Any of the diseased leaves, just discard. And what I would normally do, and like I said, I've had this plant for about a year, is I would chop off some of the stem, and I'd leave only the top 4 or 6 leaves. You still put this in water and wait for it to root, but for some reason, the last 2 or 3 times I've tried that, they just wilted immediately. So I think these plants are at the end of their lifetime, and that's fine. Nothing lasts forever. So I'll just start fresh with new plants. I've got 2 more pots to go through still, and I don't use basil a whole lot. They last for a while, and you saw how tall they grow. So we probably got 2 tablespoons. Bunch this up and get to slicing or chopping. So now that the basil's chopped, I've got this slow and slow. I'll have the water boiling for the noodles. Once the water's ready for the noodles, I'll throw the basil in because I don't want to cook it too much. I still want that fresh basil taste. When the noodles are done, you throw it all together and you're ready to eat. Freshly grated Parmesan. Again, eating healthy, we'll talk about that when I come back. And you're done. Easy peasy. I'll see you in a minute. So since we're talking about spaghetti, let me tell you some things about how I make spaghetti. I'll have my pot on high with a little bit of water on it, get that boiling. Get your kettle going. Fill it up as high as you can, get it boiling, and then we're just going to dump it in. So about halfway, now we're going to add the salt. I've got any salt will do, I just happen to have this. And I'm just going to dump it in. You want it, the water, the consistency of the Dead Sea, if that makes sense. You want a lot of salt in this water. So we're going to fill it up some more. The reason we did it halfway is to get the first half boiling with the rest of it, and then the rest of the water will help mix up the salt. When I first started cooking, I bought a bunch of silly implements. There's no shame in owning one of these. I just don't use it anymore for pasta. You know, I still have a big pasta dish with the strainer that you pull out, and it feeds like 40 people. So since I have a smaller pot, I don't need this big old pasta spoon. I use the tongs now, and it's a lot easier to manage. But I keep this around because this is really handy. See the hole? It is approximately 1 adult serving. If you read the spaghetti manufacturers, they'll say 2 ounces is 1 serving, I suppose, if you're going for a side dish or whatever. But one of these holes is about 4 ounces. And that's what I use. I use 4 4-ounce servings, or 16 ounces in total for a family of 4. And that does give some leftovers, and I'm fine with that as I throw spaghetti on the floor, because that means I don't have to cook for another night. Or at least the boys can have the leftovers and I can find something else. I used to also try to use a scale. I don't know if you see this or not, but it's kind of rolling all over the place. And I don't have a scale that keeps all of this in one place. So using my trusty old pasta spoon, which is probably 20 years old, it still has a purpose. This water's boiling. This is cooking down beautifully. Still low and slow. We don't really want crunchy garlic. I do enjoy crunchy garlic, but it gets a little bitter. That's not the purpose of the sauce. It's just to be a nice garlicky flavor throughout everything. So I'm going to throw the noodles in, just a little at a time. Tongs, squish them around a little bit. And if I needed to add water, I still have some left in the kettle that I can add. But you don't want too much. You don't want it boiling over, because that just makes a mess. In about 10 minutes, that pasta will be done. The sauce, oh, I almost forgot. We threw the noodles in, we throw the basil in. So the sauce will be done with the noodles right on time. Again, you don't want it to cook down. You just want all the flavors to get together. Hang out, have a good time. Once the noodles are done, I'll bring everything over. We'll start plating and mixing it all together, put some Parmesan on this. We'll close out the video. And we're back one last time. The sauce, it's starting to bubble a little bit. I've got no crunchy garlic. Everything is still soft. The noodles are done. I'm going to take them out and strain them. Do not rinse them. We don't want to rinse them because we want them to stay starchy. We want them to stay sticky. That way the sauce sticks to them. Now we start assembling. The easiest thing to do, we've still got some of the pasta water. I drained out most of it, but I'll let some of it drip back in here. We'll add the spaghetti back to that, and then we'll take the sauce and we just dump it over the spaghetti. If you're going for presentation, do this in a separate bowl, and then just leave the bowl on the table and let people serve their own spaghetti. But as I mentioned before, I'm not a 5-star chef. I'm merely feeding my family. Presentation's nice and all, but it all comes out the same. Give this a good mix. Get the oil to seep in there. Get all the ingredients to sink down to the bottom. Speaking of ingredients, I did mention that you could add whatever you want. Bacon, sausage, bell peppers, zucchini, squash, just about anything. Seafood, that would work. Maybe some clams. Give it that extra salt. Alright, that's good and mixed. Make sure you get some of that basil, tomatoes. Now we go digging for tomatoes. If there's not enough vegetables, I get yelled at. Alright, there we go. Now let's talk Parmesan cheese. You can buy the cheese in the container, but it's been my experience that cheese clumps. And for a cheese to be in a container that long and not clump, something's not right. They're adding something to that cheese. And that's not something that I want to eat. So I've been grating my own Parmesan specifically for a very long time because I don't know what's in those containers. I've actually been grating all of my cheese lately because, again, cheese clumps naturally. It just does. So that the manufacturers have to add something in the process to make it not clump. And it's some kind of powder, might be flour, I don't know. I'm going to grate my own cheese. Now I did mention a couple of times that I bought a lot of silly implements, especially when I was cooking pasta. And I bought this. You may have seen these at a restaurant chain. They come in, you want fresh Parmesan, yeah, they're neat, but they're a pain to clean because cheese will get clumped in there, because cheese clumps, and then you have to try to dig it out, and it's just, I still have it. I use it for making cookies if I want to shave some chocolate real fast. This is perfect for that. Like shaved chocolate chips, I just dump a bunch in there and go to town as trying to shave a chocolate chip with this. Not fun. Just throw some Parmesan on this, bam, done. And there we have a very quick, a very simple spaghetti. It's so easy to make, and you can make it however you want. It's really simple. As long as you have the base, you have to have olive oil. You really should have some garlic, give it that flavor, and then just go to town with whatever you want. So that's what we got. Beautiful pasta, great cheese, good for the whole family. And this has been a ginger can. And today, a ginger can make a quick and easy spaghetti with a couple of ingredients and not a whole lot of time heating up the house because it's like 100 degrees here. Whew. And you don't want a big pot of pasta boiling for a long time. You don't want to be cooking a sauce for a long time. Thank you so much for watching. I'd appreciate it if you liked, shared, and subscribed to my channel. I'll have a lot of cooking and maybe some gardening and other videos coming up here real soon. I will see you guys around. Thank you again.